Hello, friends, and welcome to episode 1100 of the Juicebox Podcast. My guest today is Claudia. She is 73 years old and was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes when she was 40. I want to warn everybody up front that Claudia is going to tell a long story about a long life. And there are going to be shocking... I don't even know how to tell you this. Claudia is going to talk at some point about a molestation that she went through as a child. And it is not something that I knew about before we started or that was planned to be spoken about. And so it's going to be during a free-flowing conversation. It's just going to come up. And you're not going to be ready for it when it's said. So prepare yourself now. It's a small part of a very lovely life that Claudia has led. It is not her whole story. And in fact, just a very small piece of it. Please remember that nothing you hear on the Juicebox Podcast should be considered advice, medical or otherwise. Always consult a physician before making any changes to your healthcare plan or becoming bold with insulin. This show is sponsored today by the glucagon that my daughter carries, Gvoke HypoPen. Find out more at gvokeglucagon.com/juicebox.
Hi, I'm Claudia. I have type 1 diabetes. I was diagnosed when I'm 40. I'm 73 now.
Wow. You were 40 when you got type 1?
Yes, and so everyone said I was type 2.
Yeah, I bet you they did, especially 33 years ago. Do you remember anything about the diagnosis? That's a long time ago, is why I said Claudia.
Oh, I have a whole story about the diagnosis.
I would like to hear it, please.
Really?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, well, I was working as a licensed massage therapist and a wellness educator in the first all-female medical practice in Cincinnati. It was called Deaconess Women's Care.
Huh.
And so I was surrounded by 5 physicians, 2 psychologists, me, a whole bunch of medical staff, nurses. I walked around with a large bottle of Perrier. I could not get enough to drink. Mm-hmm. And I bought Perrier by the case because I could not get enough to drink. And my normal weight is 115 and I weighed 85 pounds.
Oh my gosh. How long do you think it took for you to lose that weight? Like over weeks or months?
I'd say months. Okay. I think it was coming on for a long time. I think in college, I couldn't stay awake to study unless I stood up. So I think my blood sugar had been going up and down for years. And for years, I knew there's something wrong with me. Mm-hmm. And I stayed off wheat and I did all kinds of things.
So you were getting diabetes, so you cut out wheat?
Well, that's what my doctor said to do. No one checked my blood sugar, not one single person.
Yeah. And you think this went on for years?
Yeah, I think I was in therapy because I knew my brain didn't work right, and I got angry and tired, and it was just so hard being me. But so I went to therapy. Now I think, well, I really needed insulin, but I was in therapy. I was doing the macrobiotic diet.
You were trying, right? You were doing everything you could think to do. And
I did my best.
Yeah, no kidding. What was that, 1997? Am I right about that? No, 93? It's a long...
Yeah, so people could take blood sugar in their offices in the mid-'80s. Isn't that true?
I'm not sure, but I'm trying to do, I didn't do the math, but if you've had this for 33 years, yeah, this was 1990.
Yeah.
Yeah. So type 1 management was kind of just going the way of faster acting insulin in the late 80s. Testing, like in-home testing was there, but it wasn't great. It was in the kind of the very beginning of like, I believe, smaller machines. Because in the late 80s, my friend had a glucose monitor. I mean, I guess if you want to call it that I mean, I have a computer that's smaller than the glucose monitor he had, back then. So I do wonder, but no blood work? Like they didn't send you out for like a CBC, like that kind of stuff?
And the same thing was also going on through the years, more than 5 years. My left kidney always ached.
Really?
And I went from doctor to doctor to doctor. Like every 6 months I'd go, I can't stand this anymore. And I'd go to someone else. Mm-hmm. And they'd say, well, take antibiotics. So I'd do that. That, of course, just made me sicker. And I drank water and I took herbs. One physician said, let's do exploratory surgery. Well, at least I knew not to do that.
You're like, I'm not doing that. None of you have known anything yet. I'm definitely not letting you cut me open.
So I finally decided, really, after going to, I'd say maybe 6 to 10 different, I would just do it on occasion. I'd say, I cannot stand this. Mm-hmm. But now I think the whole time, my kidney was suffering.
Yeah, it sounds like you just had like LADA and you had a very slow onset of type 1 diabetes. That's terrible and nobody knew.
And I think my personality really was affected. And I was married at the time, and I think that poor man, it was like living with a crazy person.
And you actually thought you were having mental illness, right?
I actually thought I was crazy.
Yeah.
Well, I felt crazy.
I bet.
So that's why on the podcast, when people are saying, this is so hard, and my child, it's so hard, and I'm saying, please get help.
Yeah.
All I think the therapy did for me was it did give me skills in acting more normal. Like I would say to myself, what would a normal person do if this was going on? And I would try to do that.
Claudia, do you think that after you got your blood sugar under control that those things go away? Or did you?
Oh my God.
Yeah.
My whole personality it became much easier to be myself.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
And I'm always still wanting to make amends to everyone who dealt with me during those years.
Yeah. But it wasn't you really.
Well, it wasn't me, but it sure looked like me and acted like me. And I'm still responsible for the people and my behavior, even though, yes, my life got easier. I thought I was a compulsive eater because, when you're low, you're like, and even when I'm high, I want to eat. Mm-hmm. So I think I was always low or high. So I was doing Overeaters Anonymous because I was sure I was a compulsive eater. But now I never am.
Isn't that something? Yeah, just that fluctuation of insulin can really impact your hunger. That's for a person who doesn't have diabetes as well.
It just, my whole life got easier. And I just thought, oh my goodness.
Yeah. Well, it's something how a small change can make such a big difference. I'm sitting here, so I don't normally do this in video. I don't usually talk to people where I can see them and they can see me. So I'm doing this for you today, which I'm happy to do. But I've lost 17 pounds, and I keep looking at myself in the video thinking, that doesn't look like me. Like it really, like I'm like, I haven't looked like that since I feel like 3 years ago, maybe. And it's off-putting. Like right now, while you and I are talking, I'm having trouble, like, anyway, just a small, and what was the small change? I've been talking about a little bit on the podcast, but I started taking Wegovy for weight loss, which is really Ozempic, but rebranded and, allows doctors to prescribe it for weight loss. And I can't tell you like how different it feels just to have either I guess I have now the right amount of GLP-1 in my system, or my body's using it more effectively. One or the other, like kind of no different than a thyroid medication. Like, right? Like when people need thyroid medication, they're making T3, but they don't use it correctly. So you put in an amount that kind of forces your body to take it up. And I feel like that's happening now. And just my day-to-day life is different. So I can't imagine you with your blood sugar, bouncing up and then wondering if you're out of your mind. That's got to be a terrible existence. And you said a man you used to be married to. Did this break up your marriage?
I believe it did.
Yeah. Oh, I'm so sorry.
He was a good man.
Yeah. Does he know? Have you been able to talk to him and tell him, or? No,
we were married for 20 years, and I'm pretty sure most of it, the blood sugar stuff started in college. So I was married my senior year in college.
Jeez.
But
I'm so sorry.
He requested that we not be in contact. And I thought that's the least I can do to honor him.
You didn't do anything super weird, did you, Claudia? Did you?
No.
No? He didn't wake up one day with you holding a pair of scissors talking about something? No. Okay.
I controlled my behavior.
Well, that's good.
But I felt weird.
Yeah.
I felt like I could murder and kill, but I never did.
How long after your marriage broke up did you figure out you had type 1?
Well, that's, I think, my contribution. Because when my former husband finally said he fell in love with someone else and had been in love with someone else, he told me for 1.5 years. So he left, and I used to lie on the couch in our big house.
If you take insulin or sulfonylureas, you are at risk for your blood sugar going too low. You need a safety net when it matters most. Be ready with Gvoke HypoPen. My daughter carries Gvoke HypoPen everywhere she goes because it's a ready-to-use rescue pen for treating very low blood sugar in people with diabetes ages 2 and above that I trust. Low blood sugar emergencies can happen unexpectedly, and they demand quick action. Luckily, Gvoke HypoPen can be administered in 2 simple steps, even by yourself in certain situations. Show those around you where you store Gvoke HypoPen and how to use it. They need to know how to use Gvoke HypoPen before an emergency situation happens. Learn more about why Gvoke HypoPen is in Arden's Diabetes Toolkit at gvokeglucagon.com/juicebox. Gvoke shouldn't be used if you have a tumor in the gland on the top of your kidneys called a pheochromocytoma, or if you have a tumor in your pancreas called an insulinoma. Visit gvokeglucagon.com/risk for safety information.
And say, please do not let me wake up. I was still undiagnosed then.
Yeah. And
so I just didn't know how I could continue.
Mm-hmm.
But I kept waking up. So then I changed my prayer to, please let me find a nonviolent way to commit suicide, which now I always chuckle when I hear that, because you can't commit suicide in a nonviolent way.
Yeah, pretty much all the ways out are going to be violent one way or the other. I mean, maybe pills, but that's neither here nor there.
Still a violence to your body.
Of course, yeah.
But I never know the exact day I was diagnosed. I don't remember that, and I can't get that information. But within 1 or 2 months, I was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes, which answered my prayer exactly, which is, if I screw it up, I won't wake up. And with insulin, I always have a way to commit suicide that will be relatively easy.
How long did you feel like that? Like how long did you feel like, oh, maybe I'll make a mistake and this will be over?
I was praying for a way out, but I didn't know enough about anything like diabetes to pray for that specific thing.
Okay.
But my main lesson was, oh my gosh, what I hold in my mind, I really get.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, now I have a way that I might not wake up and I can leave when I want to. I didn't get cancer. I didn't get any of the things that under high stress you could have gotten.
Mm-hmm.
I got that diagnosis. And so, boy, I'll tell you, ever since then, I watch what I think.
You don't want to, right? Because what if you would have left before finding out that there was a way to honestly take care of all the problems you've been having your whole life, right? And just insulin did that for you.
Insulin did that to take care of the mood and the exhaustion and the all those consequences of high and low blood sugar. But insulin, realizing, I think that gave me the courage to start a new life.
Well, yeah. Maybe for the first time since you were a young girl, right? You had some stability and you were yourself enough to think, wow, that's something. So I guess first of all, how did they start you with insulin? Were you doing regular NPH or no? Was it?
No, first they started me on metformin, but my blood sugar only came down to 300. It was 900 at diagnosis.
Oh, gosh.
And I was functioning. I mean, I was working full time and doing everything, driving, just feeling weird. But since I had always felt weird, I just kept going. Mm-hmm. The people around me before I was diagnosed, they said, two different people said, my one friend, Mary Lynn, she said, Claudia, you are too thin. And then my other, one of the nuns at work where I was a teacher said, you look like a child from Ethiopia. My ribs showed.
Right.
Why did I start talking about that?
Well, I was wondering about what your management was like when.
Oh, okay. Yes. Yeah. So after no one took a C-peptide.
Okay.
But they just said they concluded, which I now would conclude immediately, you're a type 1, but just because of my weight. Mm-hmm. Maybe I could be wrong about that.
Yeah, but people make assumptions. So if you were super skinny and definitely had diabetes, but they thought type 2, they might say, okay, well, what's that old thinking would have been? If they're not heavy, then they don't have type 2. So maybe it just got them thinking in the other direction. I mean,
Also, my age was 40. Mm-hmm. So that, I think.
People weren't looking for type 1s to be diagnosed at that age either.
They weren't. Yeah. And these were my friends. The doctors in that practice were my friends. Yeah. So they were all watching me walk around. The big joke was my different friends went on a road trip with me to Atlanta. We went to Bob Evans for breakfast, and I ordered a number 1, a number 3, and a number 4. And they said, Claude, you cannot eat that much. And I said, I'm holding back.
Yeah.
I could not get enough food and I could not get enough water. but I weighed 85 pounds.
How about that?
So even my one friend, Linda, who was my doctor, she took me out to breakfast once and she saw how much I ate. She said, Claude, you're eating so much, but no one put it together.
And that's something. No. Well, eventually they did, right? So do you start with, you start with injections. Do you go to an insulin pump at some point?
No, it was a long time till I went to a pump. And I forget how many years. I always did check my blood sugar at least 10 times a day. Somehow I knew I could not do it once I started on insulin without checking a lot. And my doctor would only give me 4 strips a day,
Mm-hmm.
and my insurance would only pay for that much.
Yeah.
So I was like dealing in blood sugar strips in the back alleys. I mean, I bought enough strips to do it 10 times a day.
Did you really? You bought them on the kind of on the black market?
Bought them here and there, and
You don't know what gave you that feeling, that idea, like I need to have more data than what I have? Was it fear? I mean, I'd be afraid. I always try to put myself in that position. I don't know how you'd give yourself insulin without knowing what was happening. It must have been frightening.
I might not have known enough to be frightened.
And that's something, yeah.
At the office where I worked, the medical office, when I started on insulin, they gave me a meter from the office so I could check. Because my friend Linda, the doctor, said, Claude, you have to go in the hospital. And I said, I'm not going in the hospital. The food alone will kill you. I wouldn't go in. I said, if I'm unconscious, you can take me. But I'm up, walking around, doing 5 massages a day, doing everything I do. I'm not going in the hospital. She said, well, then find yourself another doctor. We just got into it. But in the end, she said, call me every morning with your blood sugar, and I'll tell you how much insulin to take. Well, now I know that was silly, too. I mean, I'm amazed I lived with the care I was.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at you now. I'm very pleased with how healthy you appear. So do you have any side effects or anything long-term complications?
My feet hurt sometimes.
Okay.
But I don't know if that's diabetes. But that just started in the last year.
Mm-hmm. My feet have been hurting for a while, but that's for other reasons, I think. They're actually getting better as I lose weight, which I don't think would be surprising to anybody. My knee feels better, too.
Good.
Yeah. But, okay, so do you ever remarry? No? Did you want to?
Well, I started out with the belief of now no one will ever love me with this big problem of diabetes. And my friend Linda said, oh, you're more interesting with diabetes. She said, yes, someone will love me. And actually, Linda loved me. And I'm a straight woman, but I fell in love with Linda, and Linda fell in love with me. So I think that's maybe why I wasn't real afraid. Right. I had a doctor. Now, the doctor thought she was very good with diabetes. That was her reputation. I trusted her. I said, oh, great. So I wasn't afraid because I had Linda.
Wait, you and Linda were a couple?
Yes, we turned into a couple. It was amazing.
Oh, that's so great. How old were you when that happened, and how long did you?
40. I was 40. And it took a long time because I've only loved men since and before. But I think it might have been, you know, how a orphaned baby duck will glam onto the first thing they see to love them. Mm-hmm. And I think I had been feeling crummy for so long that I didn't have a capacity to love. So now I'm on insulin. I start feeling better. There's Linda taking care of me. I love her.
Yeah. How long were you two together?
We were together for 2 years, and the poignant part is Linda was an MD, and she saw what I was doing with my body work and the different kinds of modalities I was using. And she started referring everyone to me. She said, Claude, I don't think I'm helping people. So she knew there was a whole part of the practice of medicine that she didn't know. And she thought I knew it. And I kind of did know things she didn't know. So the two of us together, we were a pretty good team.
Yeah.
And so we decided to do a study and get it published. And that's how I was diagnosed. I was already type 1, but didn't know it, and functioning pretty well. And we decided to do this study about depression. So the way in my modality I took care of depression is a technique called craniosacral therapy, because we're taught that depression is actually compression of the bones of the skull.
Mm-hmm.
And if it doesn't have an external cause, if the depression isn't by something obvious like somebody died or something, then sometimes it is just compression of the bones of the skull. And this very gentle body work can free that. So Linda was very depressed. So she said, I want this craniosacral therapy. And she said, if someone comes to me and they're depressed, I take their blood sugar and I take their thyroid. So she said, I'll take your blood sugar and thyroid. You help me with craniosacral therapy. And that'll be the beginning of our study, is how to help depression with these two modalities. Mm-hmm. So as soon as I took the blood test, she called me at 11 o'clock that night, said, Claude, how are you doing? And I said, oh, I'm fine. She said, well, please come in tomorrow, even though it was my day off, because we ought to check this number again. She said, this can't be you. They just called me from the lab and said, contact this person, whoever she is, because she's probably in a coma. And they said, this can't be you. We must have done this wrong, but it was me. And it was higher the next day. And that's when she said, you've got to go to the hospital. And I said, never. And so I did whatever I did without going in the hospital.
No kidding.
Yeah.
And so, but she's prescribing like your medication for you too, as your doctor, like insulin, things like that you need, you're getting from your doctor, and you just
all I got was insulin.
Okay.
But anyway, I got distracted because Linda had suffered from depression her whole life, and she ended up committing suicide.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Years, yeah. It was a huge, sometimes, I mean, it's unspeakable, really, what suicide does, but it was also a huge gift, because boy, did I wake up about when somebody says they're suicidal, you better believe them.
Yeah. Oh, I'm so sorry. That must still hurt even all these years later.
Just gives me compassion for people who commit suicide. She was suffering so much, but such a good doctor. Mm-hmm. But when people found out she committed suicide, everyone kind of was mad at her. You know, like, God, how could she do that? So many people need her. And that kind of lack of awareness of, if someone is even thinking about suicide, they're really suffering.
Yeah.
No. So it just woke me up. And before when we were working together and helping people, our little health center, I said, well, Linda, tell me what vitamins to take. I mean, you're the perfect person for me to have right now because I need help getting well. And here was her gift. Claude, I am not trained to get you well. I am trained to keep you from dying. You'll have to get well some other way. Mm-hmm. And so that became my job, how to get well and stop relying on physicians to do for me what they're not trained to do.
Yeah, that's very smart.
It was her great gift to me. Mm-hmm. So now, I think some physicians now are broadening their training and their interests to help people get well. But back in Linda's day, she knew she wasn't trained to get people well. And that's why she was so depressed.
Yeah. No, I mean, well, Claudia, it's obvious, right? You have a problem, you go to a doctor, you say, I'm having a problem. I'd like to not be having this problem anymore. You never go to that doctor and say, hi, you're a cardiologist, for example. I don't ever want to have a heart attack. So how would I do that? And if you asked a cardiologist that, they'd be like, you have to go talk to a nutritionist. They wouldn't get involved in that. It's really just, she's right. It's the way it's set up. And it
was the gift of my life.
Yeah. You have to take care of yourself. You really do.
We don't have enough information to do that. So we turn to that whole level of medicine and health, which are my herbalists, my licensed massage therapists, my craniosacral people, my Feldenkrais people. They're the ones who keep me well.
Yeah, that's something. So how do you do that for your diabetes now, all these years later? I mean, well, let me ask you this first, actually. What do you call success? Like, what are you shooting for? Blood sugars, variability? What are your goals?
I'm shooting for, and this is only because of this podcast.
Oh, okay.
I even know enough to shoot for this. I'm shooting for an A1C in the mid fives, 95% time and range.
Are you doing that?
Oh, no. I when I first started listening to you and heard people are going, much closer to normal A1Cs, I went, oh, because I had been taught I'm doing great at a 7. Mm-hmm. And I was proud of myself. I'm at a 7 all these years, 30, however many years that was. Now I'm hearing go lower. So I go to my doctor, and I'm going to name names here, but I was in Colorado at the time, and I was going to the Barbara Davis Clinic, which in Denver, it's a well-known teaching hospital or clinic for diabetes.
Yeah, of course.
So I go into my doctor and I said, look, I want to be 95% time and range in an A1C in the mid fives. And he said, that's impossible.
How long ago was this?
2022.
That's interesting. Okay.
At the Barbara Davis Clinic.
Yeah, I'm not following that.
Oh my gosh. So I know by then, I'm not there to convince him of anything. Mm-hmm. So he just gave me my next whatever I was there for. But so now I'm starting to try to do it myself.
Good for you. How are you trying to accomplish that?
Oh, I listen to the podcast and I'm more bold with insulin and I'm giving myself, I'm not letting it go so high. I do have a CGM and a Dexcom.
Yeah.
But I didn't get very good training on those. I mean, I'm just now starting to really work on my settings. And still when I eat, I'm learning to pre-bolus. That's my challenge.
Remembering before you eat?
Oh, I remember, but I don't want to do it.
That's very honest, Claudia. How long have you been listening to me?
I started listening to you when I was in Colorado. So that means a year and a half about.
And what was your A1C a year and a half ago?
It was always 777.
Oh.
Now, on my own, I've gotten it down to 6.2.
Oh, Claudia, that's amazing.
I had many days in the 85% range, but I even got one in the 98.
Listen, 85 is pretty good, first of all, but I'm
grateful.
A 6.2 is astonishing. Good for you. Seriously.
Well, but now I know I can get in the 5. So, but I still, it's luck. I don't really have this. I can't predict. Now, my settings, I know my basal is good because if I don't eat anything, I'm pretty steady.
Yeah.
As soon as I eat the same thing till I got it mastered, but something's going on that I don't get. So one of my favorite things is half an avocado on a piece of Ezekiel toast.
Okay.
That's a really solid breakfast. I make my own alfalfa sprouts, so I pile those on there. And it holds me for hours. But I ate that for like a couple weeks because it's really working. It's 2.5 units. I wait, I eat it, and I'm smooth as silk. Well, about a week ago, it stopped working. And I peaked. I spiked. For hours, I couldn't get it down. And I thought, what? So now I have a new trick. And I think I heard you say this. I raise my basal for a couple of hours. So I have a new profile. It's called High. And it gives me a 3 unit per hour basal.
Wow.
Which is a whole lot.
Yeah.
Now I have to remember to turn that off in a half hour or else I'm dealing with big lows later.
What pump do you have?
T-Slim.
Are you using Control IQ or no?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, so can you do a temp basal on it? Temporary, so it shuts off on its own?
Well, I think that would be the answer, but I don't know that yet. And I'm seeing a new endo. I'm back in Ohio now, which is where I'm from. And I'm seeing a new endo tomorrow.
Oh, wow.
I was going to ask her, it just depends. When I go in some endos, I started calling around in Ohio for a new endo because I was going to be here. And I said, can you help me with my goal of A1C of 5.5, time and range in the 90s? They all said to an endo, that's not, you'll get too many lows. That's not the way I can't find an endo.
Yeah, you might not.
So I finally decided I'll just take the endo that my insurance tells me to go to. And I'm going to have to keep doing this myself. Now, if I had a lot of extra money, I would hire Jenny.
Well, I'll have to do something.
But I have the amount of money I have.
Yeah.
And so I'm.
But Claudia, a 6.2 is fantastic. It's really terrific. You should be celebrating that every day. I'm not saying if you don't want better, if you can't work on it, but you shouldn't think of this as not a success. This is very successful. It's amazing.
I'm thrilled. I'm thrilled.
Yeah.
And I have a new regular MD, and she took a C-peptide on me the other day when I told her my A1C. She didn't believe I'm type 1.
Ah, that's funny.
She's not, but she's a lovely woman, but she's not real familiar with diabetes.
Claudia, be careful. Don't turn her, okay? You gonna get this one too as a girlfriend?
Oh no. I'm not even looking for a partner right now because I'm having this wonderful time of my life. Well, I've had a wonderful time since I was 60. I thought, honey, you are 60. Maybe you better do what you really, really want to do. I had always kind of done what I really wanted to do, but undone was I wanted to be with horses.
Okay.
And for some reason, I had a story. There's horses out west. There's tons of great horses and horse trainers here in Ohio, but I had a story. I had to go out west. So
how long did you move out there?
Well, when I was 60, I just applied for a job on a ranch. At 60, with no experience, who would hire me? They did.
And how long were you there?
Well, it was seasonal. Most of my jobs have been seasonal.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I wouldn't do that now. I don't have the energy now, but I had the idea. I just kept saying, okay, this season's over. Where are you going to go now? So I would find the next place. So I went Cody, Wyoming, Nebraska, Idaho, and Colorado, and stayed till the next thing opened up.
Wow. You just made me cry a little. Do you know that?
It's been the joy of my life.
Yeah, that's really lovely. Good for you.
But I got to tell you why it's connected with diabetes.
Mm-hmm, please.
And also, all through that time, somehow, diabetes I did have a few incidents where I went low. I never needed help with lows until I was in my 60s. And then I did pass out. And my poor people I was living with had to call 911. And that was so stressful for them.
Yeah.
But anyway, I think, got this horse going out west idea because when I was 10, my mom sent me out to live with my uncle, who was a forest ranger in Elko, Nevada, in the Humboldt National Forest. And I was by myself. I was 10. I was by myself. He's out doing forest ranger stuff. And I'd get up and I'd have 3 Hershey bars for breakfast. And then my horse 10 spot would always be saddled out there, and I would climb up on him and ride around till lunch. And I'd come in and this was my typical lunch. I made raw cake batter and ate the whole bowl. I'm amazed I didn't have diabetes even sooner, but my mother fed us really good food.
Okay.
So back in Ohio, I was eating normally, but out there, man, nobody cared. I just ate what I wanted. But I loved being out there because I didn't really get along with my mother. I had a story she didn't like me, and that may have been true. But so I was thrilled to be with my uncle, who was nice and gave me a horse and didn't make me do any work. And I loved being out there. And I think, but the sad part was at night, there was incest.
Wait.
With my uncle. But even with that weird, I didn't know what incest was, and I didn't know what was going on. But I liked my uncle, and he was nice to me. So every night I felt weird, but it was a trade-off because he got me cowboy boots and he let me drive his truck all around. And
how old were you then?
I was 10, and then the next year I was 11.
Wait, I'm so sorry, Claudia. Let me make sure I understand correctly. He was touching you inappropriately when you were 10?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
But I didn't know to say. I knew I didn't like that, but he was so nice in all the other ways, and he wasn't mean like my mother. So I even wrote my mother a letter and said, I want to live with George. I don't want to come home. I want to go to the Mountain City school. But George never asked me to live there. I wanted that. That's how much I didn't like living with my mom.
How long did that go on for?
2 summers.
Wow, you took me by surprise. I have to be honest. But
that's why this is after dark.
Yeah.
But also, I mean, it may even be in midnight. It may be more than after dark.
Honestly, Claudia, I've been thinking recently of starting up a string of episodes that you have to pay to listen to, and that would be very like just beyond what even After Dark is. And I don't know, you might have just qualified just the first one. I swear to you, like, I mean, you just like, I swear to God, I thought you were mispronouncing insects. I thought you were saying the only thing I didn't like were there were insects at night. And I thought I misunderstood her. So I now we're talking. I need to ask you, was he raping you or touching you or no?
Touching. I'd say, what's it called when you touch inappropriately? And this is hard for me to say, but he would ejaculate on me at night.
Oh my God, I'm so sorry.
And but I didn't know what ejaculation was, so I thought I wet my pants.
Oh my God.
And I was always getting embarrassed. I'd say, "Oh my God, I wet my pants. I've never done that in years." And I would go to the bathroom, change my underwear.
How are you?
I was all mixed up.
Listen, it's 63 years later and all, but how do you have such a good...
Oh,
I don't understand.
So much therapy.
Yeah.
I've done more therapy out the wahoo. And I think it really helped me. But I got to tell you this about my uncle, because you usually ask people, does anyone in your family have type 1? Yeah. You didn't ask me that.
Well, no, I don't know what to ask you about your family now, but go ahead. Does anybody in your family have type 1?
My uncle was the only type 1 in my family. My uncle. But now, through all the therapy, see, I waited to do my horse and going out west thing and sagebrush. I love the smell of sagebrush. I think it took me that long to kind of just deal with the craziness of incest, which really makes people crazy, and remember the benefits of the gifts of that time in my life. And the gifts of that time in my life were horses, sagebrush, being out west. And so it made sense to me that all of a sudden at age 60, because I'm done, incest doesn't wake me up at night, or I'm just complete with that. And now I get to do the fun stuff I learned. Yeah. Being out west, so I got to go. But the big trauma, and this is still going on, and with me, the big trauma wasn't my uncle. It was my family, because my uncle was the favorite uncle of our whole family. Oh, we have great uncles. I mean, they'll never listen to this, so I'm not going to hurt anyone's feelings, but all of our uncles are good guys. But George was the favorite because he was out west and he had horses. I mean, the whole story. So when I got back from being out west and finally kind of woke up to, what George was doing was not healthy.
Yeah, not right.
And started to process all that. I didn't tell anything to my family. But my family, we always tell songs and stories about George. And once I had a friend there with me, my friends all knew my incest story, but my family did not. And they said, Claudia, why is your family singing songs in front of you about the man who molested you? And I said, well, they didn't know. So then my therapist said, well, and my friend said, Claudia, you should see yourself. You kind of shrink away to nothing. So I said, I am going to tell. So, and I thought, I'm the oldest of 10 and a mom and a dad. So I thought my family would say, oh, we're so sorry. Of course we won't talk about that when you're there.
Right.
They all got mad at me, said I was lying, my mother especially, because it was her brother. It kept going on and on. Like I'd say, just don't talk about him when I'm there. But they couldn't.
Oh, wow.
For some reason, there was enough lack of respect or lack of trust in me. And so that's when I did leave my family.
How old were you
And
then?
When I was 60 is when it was all like, see, I don't know these years so well, but somehow it was perfect for me to go out west because I had to get away from this group of people who acted like
you're out west around 10 years old. Maybe,
that first out west.
Yeah, till 12. But then when you ask your family not to speak about him any longer, how old? Just generally.
That was in my 50s.
Really? You were an adult at that point?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
And my family, but led by my mother. Just, my poor mom, she could not find a way to remember when I'm around. I don't want to hear her stories about.
Yeah. So help me for a minute though. So for 40 years, you have this secret from your family, but you do share it with your friends and you've talked about it in therapy. Is that right?
Yeah. I was taking care of myself about that.
Okay.
I didn't know my family would have such a hard time with that.
Yeah.
But now what I really think is it goes back to my relationship with my mother. And I think most moms would remember their kid was molested, and don't bring that up. She could not.
How old was she at that point?
Oh man, I don't know how old. She's a grown-up lady. Like, it's not that she has dementia.
Right. I mean, I'm saying if you're 50 at that point, is she 70?
Right now, she is 96.
Oh, okay. So she's 83. She's 23 years older than you. So she was your age when you were 50. She was 73 when you were 50. So, and she didn't want to hear about it. Was her brother still alive at that point?
Yes.
Is he now?
No, he died.
Can I ask you, did it make you feel any certain way when he passed away?
No, I didn't.
No.
I just feel kind of grateful that I got to be with horses and out west. And my uncle, he clearly had a sick piece.
Yeah.
Most of my experience with him was he was so much nicer to me than my mother that
So your experience at home was so terrible that being molested by a guy who was otherwise kind to you was preferable to you.
Good trade-off.
Oh my gosh. All right, well, Claudia, I'll add that to the list of things I didn't think anyone would ever say to me.
I wouldn't say it was a good trade-off.
Yeah.
But right now in this moment, I don't have a scringy feeling or a stomach ache or anything when I think of him. And I also don't have that with my mother anymore, because guess what? Now my mother does have dementia. And when I go to see her on occasion, I'm not taking the responsibility that my siblings believe I should be taking.
Yeah.
I don't have a deep connection.
Yeah, I can't imagine why you wouldn't, but
but my siblings do not understand that or hear it, or they have their own beliefs.
Yeah. Do you think your uncle molested anyone else in your family?
I asked, because the second year I went, my little sister went with me. And I asked her directly, did anything happen to you? And she said no. But I was glad she went with me, because when I first told about George in my effort to say, hey, don't talk about this when I'm there, and people didn't believe me. But my sister, who was there by then, had enough memories of weird things. She spoke up for me and said to my mother, it really did happen.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So my mother believed my sister, even though my mother had never believed me. But I think that just said, when I stepped back, I said, if a mother could treat her daughter like that, the break in the bond happened much earlier.
Mm-hmm.
We just hadn't built a bond. But the miracle is now when I go see my mother, she forgot she doesn't like me. And her tone of voice is loving, just like she used to speak to the other children, and I could hear. It was different.
Yeah. So the real
now her tone of voice is really kind and loving.
My gosh.
I'm like, oh, brother, I had to wait a long time to get a mom who loves me, but here she is.
I mean, really one of the benefits of a long life, right, is that you're able to have this much distance and clarity about something that, I mean, you just described something I think would mess most people up pretty badly. And, I mean, it's upsetting to listen to. I don't know how it would feel to have it happen. So, but you feel like you're on the other side of so many things, like your relationship with your mom, you know.
But I'll tell you, my mother, my story, my belief, and because you never really know, maybe she did love me, but I looked like someone she didn't love, or you never know.
Yeah,
because she would not say. But who knows what happened to my mother?
Yeah. Well, I mean, something bad happened to her brother, so I would imagine she's had an impact just the way he did. I mean, and honestly, if you're 70, let's think about this. If you're 73 now, what year were you born?
49.
49.
I know that one.
Which makes your mom born like around the Depression, maybe?
You do the math.
Well, you just said she's how old? 86?
96.
96. Jesus, hold on a second. These are bigger numbers. I'm going to do some gazintas. I got 3, and then I take 2. Your mom's 23 years younger than you. You were born in 49, 6. Yeah, she was born in 26, just after the Depression. So I bet you she didn't grow up well at all. And George either. And how many kids? Do you know how many aunts and uncles you had?
5.
5 kids. Broke ass people. I bet you she went through some stuff too. I'm not excusing anything, but I bet you they didn't grow up well. Did you ever have children?
No. You know what? The oldest of 10, I never wanted children. I was so clear.
You're the oldest of 10?
Yes.
Holy hell. Okay.
Catholics. We were Catholics. I'm not a practicing Catholic now, but.
Yeah, I mean, you've said enough that would get me away from religion too. But 10, so you, hold on. Do you think your mom didn't want kids? You think she was pissed at you for being there?
No, she wanted kids. She
want a boy? Did she want a boy, you think? First?
Well, I'll tell you, Scott, I've trained myself to stop spending my time trying to figure out about my mother.
I hear you.
Because I was really obsessed with my mother doesn't love me. That was my dominant stress in my life.
Yeah.
It was much bigger than diabetes.
Mm-hmm.
It was much bigger than divorce. It's been the challenge of my life. But now I just am really coming to experience my mother's beliefs and stories are not my business.
Okay. Yeah.
It's my business to be in this moment and have a good life.
Claudia, you are from another generation, and I am very impressed by how you handled everything in your life. In an hour, I started off thinking, I'm going to interview this nice older woman who likes to ride horses. That's what I thought I was going to do, right? And then we get on, you've been married, divorced, had diabetes undiagnosed for so long, you thought you had mental illness. You were molested as a child. Your mother didn't love you. I fell in love with a woman, dated her for 2 years. She took her own life. Your life is so jam-packed with amazing stories and pain and suffering and love and forgiveness and redemption. It's amazing. You're like a Hallmark movie, plus some. Do you know that about yourself? Do you know that?
Well, all I know is now, and starting at age 60, when I left my mother and my family, I am happy almost all the time.
I'll be damned, I bet you
or
are.
At least contented.
Good for you. Boy, that's amazing. I'm so glad for you. Like, just what a wonderful, like, your story is built of terrible pieces, but the overall story is lovely.
Yes.
Yeah.
And in fact, right now I get to build this wonderful little cabin and live in one of the most beautiful parts of the woods in Ohio. Of all the places I've been, Ohio has the most beautiful woods.
You're building you're building a cabin in the woods?
Yeah. Well, my friends are really building it, but I get to live in it.
Wow. Claudia, are you a hippie? You think of yourself as a hippie? You don't, do you?
I'm actually kind of conservative.
That's amazing. Okay. That's amazing. You are terrific.
Like, I didn't go to Woodstock or...
you smoke weed?
Did you know about Woodstock?
Oh my God, Woodstock. I know everything about Woodstock.
You're probably too young. Oh.
No, Hendrix was there. Fish. Who else was there?
Oh, that doesn't appeal to me at all.
You don't like that?
No,
okay.
I would not think I would.
So wait a minute. So you've never smoked weed?
Oh, I only smoked weed for 1 year of my life. And that was, I don't know why my former husband didn't want to have sex with me, but he didn't. And I loved having sex. And so how I survived those 20 years was I had affairs, and I'm not proud of that. And it was hurtful. But what I like about myself is I had integrity. I said, I'm going to have an affair. Mm-hmm. And I say to myself now, why didn't you just get divorced? But I had enough Catholic left in me that we don't get divorced. And my former husband had that same part.
Right. But where did the weed come in, though? Hold on.
Oh, well, anyway,
yeah.
I smoked weed with a good friend of ours. Mm-hmm. God, I still do have a shame that I did this, but that I think took enough down of my barriers that I had an affair with him.
Okay. Hey, this is an interesting question because of your generation. Are you more ashamed of smoking weed or cheating?
Oh, I'm more ashamed of cheating.
Because it hurts somebody else?
No shame about smoking weed.
About the weed, you didn't have any. Okay. Wow. I just want to say, Claudia's getting a drink right now, and I want to put out there to anybody listening, when you come on the podcast, this is the level of honesty I'm looking for right here. Can I curse, Claudia? You're fucking amazing. I love this. I swear to God, this is the greatest. Like, from my perspective, like, you understand, like, I got on this morning and I was like, 73-year-old lady with diabetes. I don't know what we're going to talk about. I didn't think we were going to talk about any of this. This is really, you being on this show is what makes this show so great. So thank you so much. I mean, it's amazing. Like if I said to you right now, tell me a crazy story that hasn't come up yet, does one pop into your mind? Something you've done that you think people would be like, wow, that's astonishing. Or different.
I know something I'm the most proud that I did.
Go ahead.
And this was before I was diagnosed, but I'm sure I was already suffering. This is Claudia trying to reparent young Claudia. Mm-hmm. And I got interested in Montessori education. So I said, I'm going to get my master's in Montessori. I decided that in 1 minute. So I don't know how, but it just was true. So I blessedly got a full scholarship at Xavier University, which is a really good Montessori training. Mm-hmm. And I was one of the staff who founded the first public Montessori school in the United States.
Oh my gosh. Good for
And
you.
now here in Cincinnati, you could go to public Montessori through high school.
Wow.
And I was at the foundation of that wonderful gift to this community. And now there's public Montessori schools all over the place.
Yeah.
But the huge gift that came from that is my best friends, and I'm going to name names. Sandy, Nancy, Suzanne. Well, Jerry, we don't know her from Montessori, but her daughter became a Montessori teacher. Those are my family. And when my family could not understand me and respect me, those women were my family. And the miracle is they still are.
Wow.
And I have that. I'm sure they'll all listen to this and they know what we have. It's I think some people might feel like this about their mothers. Like, who do I go to when I really need help? And one time when Linda died, my mother said, I called my mother and I was still hoping for my mother to be like loving to me. And I said, Linda committed. I mean, I was like frantic. I couldn't. Linda committed suicide was what I was trying to get out. And my mother said, well, I hope you're finished with this lesbian thing now.
Oh my gosh.
And so I call my friends. This is my core group of friends, Sandy, Nancy. I said, come over here. I can't stay. I can't stay alive through this. And they come over and Sandy grabbed my shoulders and said, Claudia, when you need mothering, stop calling your mother. It's like, I couldn't get that. And that's my friend Sandy, and she's my friend, and more, whatever you call that when someone is a sister.
Yeah.
I'm lucky that now some of my sisters are becoming my real sisters.
Oh, that's nice. Your family's kind of getting closer as you get older.
Some of us.
Yeah, that's excellent. But your life is a triumph. It really is. Like I keep coming back to that word in my mind. Like you triumphantly conquer things that I think would just stop other people. You just going, you know?
Yeah, I don't want to act like they didn't stop me for a long time.
No, you were clear about it. But I mean, you're still here and you're doing it and you have a crystal clear attitude and it's wonderful. I mean, it's uplifting and hopeful. You know?
Yeah, I mean, now I think, because, I kept that insulin. I feel like even if you could get well from type 1, there was part of me that said, but what if I ever need to check out? Like, what if I have to live under a bridge or I lose my feet or what if I can't stay? And so I thought, well, that means you can't ever get well from type 1 if you're going to have this story that you're going to need insulin.
Yeah.
But now I feel like, do I trust the process of life enough to trust the process of my death? Whenever that comes, do I trust that all my needs, because my main story in my life is being amazed that all my needs are met. Because I'd be out west, fall off a horse, broke my arm. Especially my out west adventures, I thought my needs keep being met in these odd ways by people I didn't really know. And so I started to believe, all my needs are met. But my life is a little odd in that some people kind of know how their needs are met by their families or their husbands. but I haven't known that.
People have been, hard on you, but other people have been very kind to you.
Oh my God, more people
have been kind.
Have been extraordinarily out of their way, stunningly kind to me. And then I have a few family members who, because of their own dysfunction, want to keep talking about a child abuser in front of me.
Yeah, I think you should expect the kindness then. It sounds to me like...
Oh, I do.
Yeah.
But not around. There are a few family members I will not interact with.
Yeah, well, that's fair. 9 brothers and sisters, there's got to be a couple clunkers in there, right?
Well, I actually love them too, but
you don't get it back from them.
To be treated respectfully, yeah. And so I've said kind of generally, I'd be love to meet with you and talk about these disagreements we have, but there must be a skillful third person there, like a therapist, because if I had the skill to resolve things with you, I would have done it.
Right, yeah, we wouldn't be in this spot.
Well, but I don't have the skill.
That's very mature of you. Did any of them take you up on it?
Yes, this is the miracle of my sister Gina, and she's going to listen to this, so she'll love that I'm honoring her. But I backed off from everybody. But my sister Gina and I, we did have I thought we had a pretty good relationship, but I also have compassion for her predicament. She's a middle child, and the middle child, their goal is you bring peace to this family. So it was very hard for my sister to take sides. And I really actually needed someone to say, Mom, stop being mean to my sister. I needed that, but I also now have compassion for her innate role as a middle child. But I was in Colorado doing my horse thing, and my sister was in California, and my sister offered to drive, and did drive, from California to Colorado to meet me at the equine. I was starting to study equine therapy at that time, which is a wonderful way to do therapy. You include horses instead of office furniture.
You are not the first person to bring up equine therapy on the podcast, which...
Oh, I'm just very excited to combine my awareness of emotions with horses. They are much more aware than we are.
Yeah, no, it's amazing. I heard somebody explain how they take their daughter to it, I think. And, you care for the horse. And then I guess the idea is that the horse kind of can feel how you feel. And then you can sort of, you can like work on yourself by how the energy you're getting back from the horse. Is that right?
The horses do things they cannot be trained to do in response to people.
Wow. No, that's really amazing.
So you don't know what's going to come up. And I can tell you a whole nother podcast of horse equine therapy stories, but my sister, just out of her wanting to reconnect with me, she drove, and her boyfriend came too. He supported her.
Yeah.
From California to Colorado, had the session with me, paid for the session, and then started back to California.
Very nice. That's very nice.
So we still have some unresolved stuff, but I just say, Gina, it doesn't matter what you do from here on.
Yeah, just let it go.
You have money in the bank with me because of what you did.
Yeah. Yeah, you can just let everything go and just move forward, right?
Well, we don't let it go, but I trust that she's on my side.
Yeah.
And if anything comes up, it's just one of our lack of skill. And we both have skills to talk about things. So I trust I'll do whatever it takes to reconnect with Gina because she did that for me.
Yeah, no, that's beautiful.
Imagine that dedication.
Yeah, no, I can't say enough about that, honestly. That's wonderful.
That's Gina.
Yeah. Well, Claudia, we're over time, so I'm going to wrap up with you, but I can't thank you enough for sharing this story with me. It was really unexpected, and I can't, it's just very nice of you to share it with everybody. You're not going to be the only person who's been through some of these things, and I think it's good for people to hear other people talk about it. So
that's what I decided.
Yeah.
I want to contribute, and I want, especially my story of how my desperation to not live brought me type 1 diabetes. It seemed, even though it was already coming on, but
just felt like the path that you were on taught you something every step of the way, honestly.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
It's just been one amazing lesson after another.
Yeah. You've had a hell of a life.
I always, when the people come on and they say, I hate this disease, it's such a, all the hate about diabetes. I've never hated it.
Yeah.
Because I feel like it is my lifestyle almost.
Yeah. No, I mean, you can't hate who you are. If you have diabetes, it's part of you. And, if you're going to hate diabetes, you're going to end up hating yourself. So there's a lot people could take from your general attitude and the way you tackle things. I'm very glad you added it to the podcast. I want to thank you very much.
Thank you for talking with me and letting me tell my story.
Well, it's my pleasure. It really was. Hold on one second for me. I want to thank Claudia for coming on the show today and telling us her life story. A huge thank you to one of today's sponsors, Gvoke Glucagon. Find out more about Gvoke HypoPen at gvokeglucagon.com/juicebox. You spell that GVOKEGLUCAGON.com/juicebox. If you're looking for community around type 1 diabetes, check out the Juicebox Podcast private Facebook group, Juicebox Podcast, type 1 diabetes. But everybody is welcome. Type 1, type 2, gestational, loved ones, it doesn't matter to me. If you're impacted by diabetes and you're looking for support, comfort, or community, check out Juicebox Podcast, type 1 diabetes on Facebook. Thank you so much for listening. I'll be back soon with another episode of the Juicebox Podcast. The episode you just heard was professionally edited by Wrong Way Recording. WrongWayRecording.com.